Panthers' schedule, weeks 5 through 8, will prove to not be a yellow brick road. But if they're going to make it to Oz, they're going to need more than the Cowardly Lion and the Tin Man. Wake up, Bryce. You're not in Alabama anymore. Welcome, everybody. It's your man Big Cat here. Pause up. And this is 1995 The Roar, a channel by the fan for the fans, restoring the roar. Look, man, if you're new to the channel, hit the like button, share, subscribe. I greatly appreciate it. We will be on Spotify, Apple, and a bunch of other stuff coming real soon for my late night listeners. With that being said, we're here to talk about the main topic today, weeks 5 through 8 for the Carolina Panthers. What does it have in store? With that being said, let's move on to our first take, the first roar. On today's first roar, we're here to talk about weeks 5 through 8 in the Carolina Panthers schedule. If you haven't already, I got a link to the bottom. Check out the first video where we had covered weeks 1 through 4 in a detailed synopsis. Now, just a brief recap, I got us going 2-2 leading up into the week 5. I had us beating Jacksonville on the road. The Cardinals, we lose on the road. We come back home in our home opener and lose to Atlanta. And then we go on the road and we beat the New England Patriots. With that being said, we got the Dolphins, the Cowboys, the Jets, and the Buffalo Bills. I'm going to tell you this right now. This streak right here is going to determine whether or not we're in playoff contention towards the end of the season, or we're just going to be wasting time here. This is going to break us early, or is this going to make us early? When you're talking about the Miami Dolphins, you're talking about one of the most explosive offenses in the NFL for years, and that didn't change last year. Then you go on to the Dallas Cowboys. Dallas Cowboys, sure, they're the running joke. Dak Prescott is a joke, but Dak Prescott is a routinely 4,000-yard quarterback, right? And although they lost their running back to us, Rico Dowdle, shout out to him. They still got CeeDee Lamb, who still has enough firepower to make us pay. And on the flip side of the ball with Micah Parsons, I mean, come on, we don't even really have to say much about him. Then we got the New York Jets on the road. You got Sauce Gardner, Quinn Williams. I know Justin Fields is, at this point he's a journeyman, but you really can't sleep on him. Mainly that defense. That defense probably gives them a chance to win. And then you got the Buffalo Bills in Carolina. What do I need to say about the greatest quarterback in the NFL right now, Josh Allen? You know what I mean? I love Josh Allen, man, but it's a daunting task, man. You know what I mean? I'm not saying that, I'm not waving the white flag, all right? Some of you guys think I'm waving the white flag. All I'm saying is it's going to take a lot of extreme focus and dedication to overcome all four of these teams, right? With that being said, you know what time it is. I take a deeper dive, look at the analytics in the CAT scan. On today's CAT scan, we're here to take a deeper dive into our opponents weeks 5 through 8. If you haven't already, be sure to check out the pinned link at the comment section where you can check out weeks 1 through 4 and my deep analysis when it comes to the prediction there. We welcome in week 5 the Miami Dolphins to Bank of America Stadium. Here's an outlook of what they did during the offseason. They ended up releasing longtime tight end Durham Smith after 7 seasons. Also running back Raheem Mostert, Kendall Fuller, cornerback, and a big blow to the offensive line, Teron Armstead retired. A defense, C.J. Mosley retired as well. They ended up giving away one of the best cornerbacks in the game, Jalen Ramsey, and on offense, Jonnu Smith for a 7th-round pick and a former face who used to be with the Dolphins, Minkah Fitzpatrick. Also, in another trade, they ended up picking up Darren Waller from the New York Giants, who was formerly retired but has now came back to play. In the draft this year, the Miami Dolphins looked to bolster their defensive line by picking up defensive tackle Kenneth Grant from University of Michigan. They also added another piece to the offensive line, Jonah Saviva, excuse me if I mispronounce his name, from the Arizona Wildcats. And a couple late steals here. Ollie Gordon from the University of Oklahoma State could be big dividends, and picked up a quarterback who once was a Heisman candidate in Quinn Ewers. Could we see him at some point during the season? Could be fun to watch. Who exactly were the Miami Dolphins on offense last year? Well, take a look. Let's look at the numbers here. Total offense last year, they were ranked 18th out of 32 teams, averaging around 325 yards a game, 4,000 yards passing, ranked 15th in passing yard. They averaged around 105 yards on the ground, which was 21st best when it comes to their offense. And what some would call an anomaly, the Miami Dolphins wasn't spearheaded by their offense, but by their defense. If you look on the screen here, the Miami Dolphins defense was stingy here. Only allowed 314 yards total, which was fourth best in the NFL. When it came to passing yards, they allowed for 3,582 yards, or 210 yards a game, which was fourth to fifth ranked best in the league. But they did give up a lot on the ground. They allowed for 1,700 rushing yards, or 103 yards per game, which was 19th best overall. Ultimately, this defense was pretty solid. The only flaw was their run defense. Now, with that being said, let's look at the matchup between the Panthers. The Panthers, they welcome in the Miami Dolphins, and they're catching them, I think, at a good time. They just retired Teron Armstead. They're rebuilding that offensive line. They picked up the kid from Arizona at the right guard position. On defensive side of the ball, they lost C.J. Mosley to retirement, Kendall Fuller, Jalen Ramsey. If there's any time to catch the Miami Dolphins in a position to where I think we have a chance, it would be now. Okay, so let me stick with the offense here. Miami Dolphins is pretty much essentially three or four people, right? That's Waddle, that's Hill, and that's A-Chain, okay? Waddle, Hill, A-Chain, and Tua Tagovailoa, right? Who I'm not necessarily high on, but he has had his moments. Based off of last year's numbers and based off of seeing what they did in the offseason to kind of repair this offensive line, I don't think it's quite there. Based off of seeing what the Panthers did with their defensive line, I think that gives us a plus on them. If this defensive line can make this a one-dimensional team, we have a chance, right? And you're looking at Bobby Brown, who had an overall grade of 67th according to PFF, and stopping the run. So that could play a big factor. He's 6'4", 320 pounds. He's a big dude. I think that's going to be a heavy factor. So I think we can slow down that interior offensive line, put pressure, have A-Chain going backwards instead of going forward. The only problem is where they're weak at, we're strong at. Only problem is where they're strong at, we're weak at. So they're strong at wide receiver, we're weak at corner. A lot of people, Jaycee Horn is 10th overall, and Michael Jackson. Let me explain the Michael Jackson situation and the Jaycee Horn, right? We have two potential top 10, 25 cornerbacks, however you want to put it. If you want to say they're both 25 together, whatever, right? Last year, teams ran all over us. Teams weren't trying to throw the ball, right? So that's the reason. If you look at targeted percentage, Jaycee Horn and Michael Jackson weren't targeted heavy, right? I think they were like targeted 12 times all season, something like that, of that nature, right? Because teams didn't have to throw. They just ran all over us. Now, if we fix the D-line as good as I think we did, and now teams are going to target them a lot more because they're one-dimensional. And I'm not necessarily worried about Jaycee Horn as much. I do think Tyreek Hill will abuse him and use him and then abuse him a little bit more. Okay? But it doesn't mean that, I think we're going to break a lot. You know what I mean? I think we're going to bend a lot, We're not going to break too much. We'll bend. We'll give up a lot of chunk yardage, but where it matters in the red zone, I think we'll probably bow our necks back. But more so Michael Jackson. Do you trust Michael Jackson locking down Jalen Waddle? Mm-mm. Don't forget about Darren Waller. Darren Waller was a former Pro Bowler. He got caught up with the girl in the WNBA, lost his mind, start making rap videos. Now he's back. He needs some money. So I think Darren Waller could be a problem. Seriously, man. So with that being said, man, I do think we'll get to a Tua Tagovailoa. You know what I mean? I do think we'll shut down the run. But Tyreek Hill, despite these guys having a down year per se, these guys still will hum. I mean, there's nothing to fix a down year like a fresh, newly rebuilt, patched up Carolina Panthers team. You know what I mean? If I'm a former playoff contending team, right? So with that being said, it could be a high-scoring affair. Now, to flip the other side of the ball, you're talking about the Miami Dolphins defense, right? Now, they did lose C.J. Mosley, they lost Kendall Fuller, and they lost Jalen Ramsey. But they still have some weapons. Zach Zeeler, the defensive end for the Miami Dolphins, had over 10 sacks from the line of scrimmage, okay? They brought in Kenneth Grant to help out as well. They still got Benito in the interior at nose. You still got Bradley Chubb, excuse me. You got Bradley Chubb, a guy who had over 11 sacks. So you literally got double-digit sacks from each side of the interior, from each side of the defense. You got the interior defensive line, the outside defensive line, get the outside edge rusher. 10 and 11 right behind each other. That's pressure, in case you guys don't know. And then you got Jordy Brooks at the linebacker spot, who I wanted, by the way. When he went to Seattle, he had 3 sacks. Okay? So these guys are going to be humming with pressure. These guys ain't no pushover. They still got Jalen Phillips there. You know what I mean? I think their weak spot, or I know their weak spot is corner. Their weak spot is corner. They got Minka Fitzpatrick to kind of protect over the top, but I don't know, man. Against a real talented arm, I'm not saying Bryce ain't a real talented arm, but they mess around and face a Josh Allen or Patrick Mahomes, could get ugly for them. But, we have to take advantage. I think we got great favor on the outside. I think they got Storm Duck as one of the corners. I'm not sure who the other cornerback is, but he's not a playmaking corner, per se, you know what I mean? But their game plan is the pressure, okay? They got, like I said, you got Bradley Chubb, you got Zach Zeeler, you know what I mean? Nick Benito, you know what I mean? Then you got the guy coming from Michigan, Kenneth Grant, you know what I mean? And you still got Jordy Brooks there, you know what I mean? So their scheme is say, okay, we may not have any cornerbacks. We're going to pressure you into doing something dumb, which was the storyline for the Carolina Panthers. The only difference is this offensive line is not the same as the first go-around. And because of that, I got to say this game is going to be quite interesting, man. What looks like a blowout on paper is probably going to be a high-scoring game. To me, a high-scoring game more so favors the Miami Dolphins. But if Bryce Young is humming, then, I still give us the edge. You know what I mean? But the reason why I say if he's humming, because, if he's keeping up, and I think this is one of them games where he could get hot because the fact that they're missing, cornerbacks, like I said, unless they pressure him. If the offensive line got to do their job, if the offensive line's not showing up this game is a blowout. If the offensive line can do what I believe they can do and kind of keep Chubb and Zeeler in check and Brooks in check, I think it's still, they're going to get to him. They're still going to pressure him. But can he still make those big plays, even like he did in Atlanta? Okay, so with that being said, I'm ready to give my final verdict. In a perfect world, I would say the Panthers will want to kind of stymie this offense and keep them down to a low-scoring game. I would say that would benefit us, but I don't see that happening. I do see this team bending a whole lot, right? I think, Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle and Darren Waller, they're going to chunk up yards. The key to this game is not allowing for chunk plays, right? If this team is scoring within 60 seconds or 2 minutes, you can't have that, right? If they're going to score, you make them go 5-10-minute drives, right? So, okay, if they're scoring like that, it could be ugly. With that being said, I see us giving up big plays, big chunk yards, but I see us bowing our necks up, making some red zone stops. Okay. Ultimately, I think we're going to the fourth quarter, tight game, but we just don't have enough in our secondary, man. God bless Jaycee Horn. He's going to be in for another whirl of a day, but outside of that, who's stopping Waddle, who's stopping Waller, you know what I mean? And by that time, attrition plays a major role. I could see them just flinging it out to A-Chain at that point, right? But ultimately, tough loss, high-scoring game. Give you a lot of confidence. You're going to feel good about what you see, at least offensively, you know what I mean? And even defensively, you'll feel good, but right now, it's just not our time. All right, we move on to Week 6, where we bring in America team to Bank of America. Do you guys remember what happened last time? Should I put a montage up here? Okay, I didn't think so. Anyway, let's talk about what happened during the offseason for the Cowboys here. If you look on your screen here, last year they ranked 21st overall in total offense, 11th in passing game. That's one thing they're going to do. 27th in running the ball. When it came to pressures allowed, their offensive line was pretty good. They were elite, only allowed for 27% of the time pressure ratings, which was third. And overall, their offensive line was ranked 17th. Their run blocking was kind of middle of the road. Defense ranks 31st overall in total points. They give up 27. They were ranked 28th in total yardage. They were 25th in passing yardage allowed. They were 28th in rushing yards allowed. And the only bright spot they did have was getting to the quarterback. They were third best in the league. Let's take a look and see what the Cowboys did to upgrade their team this offseason. If you look on your screen here, they signed the 10-sack man, Dante Fowler Jr., who welcomes back to Dallas after coming from the Commanders. They picked up our trash and Miles Sanders. They ended up grabbing Javonte Williams from the Broncos, picked up receiver Paris Campbell, and a host of other moves. They did sign their defensive tackle, Osa. I'm not even going to pronounce his last name, but Osa, the defensive tackle, $80 million deal. Okay, so shout out to him. They ended up picking up George Pickens in a big-time trade with the Steelers. Kenneth Murray trade from the Titans. They ended up picking up Joe Milton from the New England Patriots. Khalil Elam, the cornerback from the Bills, ended up picking up. So they were willing to deal in all offseason. When it came to the NFL draft, the Dallas Cowboys ended up picking up their offensive lineman Tyler Booker, first-round pick from Alabama. Pick up Donovan, defensive end from Boston College, and that kind of highlights their draft. They did pick up Texas product Jaden Blue from University of Texas, running back there. And they got a couple more pieces, including Clemson's running back Phil Maffa. Although the Cowboys were busy saying hello to a bunch of new faces, they said goodbye to a bunch of old faces here. Zach Martin retired. DeMarcus Lawrence ended up going to the Seahawks. Brandon Cooks is with the Saints now. Trey Lance is with the Chargers. Jordan Lewis, their nickelback, went to the Jaguars. Cooper Rush is with the Ravens. And we end up getting their running back, Rico Dotto. In case you're not paying attention, man, going into this matchup, we're 2-3. And I got to tell you, we're a little bit reeling, we're a little bit shaky here. But we have been putting up some good performances. This Cowboys team is full of potential, man. Just like they are every year. I can't lie. On paper, this team is a 12-win, a 10-win team. On paper, man. Every year they do this to themselves, right? When you look at the acquisition of Pickens, and you know what I mean, you got CeeDee Lamb, even Javonte Williams. I know he struggled with injury early in his career. He's a stud, you know what I mean? If they can get him rolling, and you got a nice offensive line down there, you could put it together, you could be a power, a force to deal with, right? Dak Prescott is a walking turnover, but he also can get you for about 4,000 yards a season. He's like a poor man's Kirk Cousins. You know, he's going to chunk up some yards, but rarely does it, results into playoff wins and stuff like that. But, don't sleep on this offense, man. And although Zach Martin retired, one thing that I got to give the Cowboys credit, they pick up offensive linemen in the draft really, really well. They do their homework. So I'm expecting for this unit to return back even stronger. Unfortunately, this offense reminds me so much of like the Miami Dolphins game, right? You know what I mean? You got two really standout wide receivers. That's their strength, right? You got George Pickens, you got CeeDee Lamb. That's their strength. Okay? You got Jake Ferguson underneath, but he's not an elite tight end, but he can do damage as well. And you're going right at the heart of our weakness, which is our cornerback room. If you guys don't know about George Pickens, shout out to him, former Georgia Bulldog, Go Dog Sick 'em. George Pickens he's a walking highlight. I mean, he's a walking highlight. He'll go get it. He's a freak. You know what I mean? He can be emotional and temperamental, but if you get inside his head. So we may have to be a little more physical with him, maybe to cause him to lose a little bit. But I think the volume of passing, they ranked 11th last year. He's going to get a lot of volume shares because, CeeDee Lamb is going to have coverage rotated to him over top. So I would expect for Pickens to have a lot of one-on-one matchups there, man. And because of that, I mean, this game is another game where if they get off to a quick start, you know what I mean, it could get ugly here. But just like the Miami Dolphins game here, you're facing a team, the opposite. They actually have a good offensive line when it comes to pass blocking. They actually have a decent offensive line when it comes to run blocking, right? So the Dolphins, although they have weapons on the outside, their offensive line has kind of taken a step back. We're facing an offensive line that's pretty much above or right at league standard. And you got to defend the weapons. And now you got another kind of running back, Javonte Williams, you know what I mean? He's not a superstar, I think, but he's efficient enough, right? I think he can get it done. So That concerns me, man. It really comes down, can we get pressure, right? But this team was built to stop the run, but what's this team meant to get pressure? And really, you get pressure with them edge rushers. So this could be a game where you see DJ Wanham really come into effect. This could be a game where you see Nick Scorton, you know what I mean? And some of the other young bucks, they have to come in and apply pressure on third downs and stuff like that. If you allow for them to keep the chains going, ain't nothing good going to come of it. Side of the ball, you look at this Cowboys defense, and they're really, really loaded. They remind me a little bit of like the Dolphins, you know what I mean, when it comes to applying pressure. I mean, you got Deron Bland, you got Travion Diggs on the outside, right? Diggs kind of take a step back after he had that phenomenal season. Deron Bland is so-so. So, again, I think we have favorable matches on the outside. Their safeties, though, man. You got a Hooker and you got Donovan Wilson, who will come up and lay the wood on you, right? Or they will pick you off. They will force fumble. So their safeties are very active. So the deep ball may be off the table this game, but that doesn't mean that, we can't still work their cornerback room, right? Travion Diggs is he likes to jump on balls. No homo, man. He likes to jump the routes, right? So he can get kind of greedy with the eyes. So if we can get some real good disciplined route running, we can probably take advantage of Travion Diggs. Same way with Deron Bland. I think he wouldn't be if Leggett does what he should do, or if T-Mac do what he should do, we should have a pretty productive day in Bank of America. But with that being said, you still got Demarion Overshawn, who had 5 sacks. You brought in Kenneth Murray from the Tennessee Titans at linebacker. He had 4.5 sacks. You got Micah Parsons with 12 sacks. You know what I mean? You got Dante Fowler to replace Lawrence there. So he had 10.5 sacks last year. I mean, geez, man. This defense is not playing around. I mean, they had a real bad season last year, but they had 52 sacks. Think about that. That reminds me of the 2018 Panthers when the Panthers ended up missing the playoff, but they led the league, or they were second in the league in sacks. So don't think because they had a down year defensively that they're telling you what they're going to do. They're not here to sit back and play with you and zone you out. They're here to come after you. And that could be the straw that broke the camel's back here, man. How good is this offensive line really? You know what I mean? I think all the attention probably will be on Micah Parsons, but now you got Dante Fowler, right? Okay, you take away Dante Fowler, take away Micah Parsons. Now you got Kenneth Murray, you got Demarion Overshawn. You got guys that know how to play their role and still be effective. You can't double team everybody, right? And if you go deep, you got 2 really good safeties, you know what I mean, and Wilson and Hooker, who will make you pay. So really, man, it's another game, man, where it's a game inside the game. You know what I mean? I think it's important to probably try to establish the run to negate that pass rush, right? They want to get after you. They want you to drop back and throw it 30 times a game. You know what I mean? But they don't make no mistakes about it. This team gave up a lot of yardage on defense last year. So if we can really establish the run early, you know what I mean, churn out some yardage. And I think this will probably be a good revenge game for Rico Dowdle, right? Rico Dowdle was probably one of their bright spots on offense last year, and we got him. So look for him and Chuba to do damage early, keep them on their heels, you know what I mean, so they can't just pin back and try to go after the quarterback, and things could get interesting. With all that being said, I'm going to give you my final prediction here. And sadly, I have to say that the Carolina Panthers will lose to the Dallas Cowboys, dropping to 2-4 on the season. Look, man, there's a lot of what if and hypotheticals being put out there, right? We don't know if people are going to stay healthy. We don't know if people produce or whatever, yada, yada, yada. But ultimately, as of right now, this offensive line and the weapons they have on the outside is really the difference to me, right? You got a pretty solid offensive line, and you got 2 monster weapons that can really do damage. And our weak spot is that cornerback room, And if you sit back and overplay one of the other receivers, then you got a tight end, Jake Ferguson, who has great possession skills to get right behind the linebacker room. It really boils down to, can we get through on that offensive line? That's what it boils down to. If we're chasing Dak around and disrupting his time and rhythm, this game goes to Carolina. But that offensive line is pretty good, man. It's pretty, even without Zach Martin, it's pretty good here. And on defense, man, you know what I mean? On our offense, excuse me, can we slow down their pass rush, right? If we can slow down their pass rush, we got favorable matchups, at least on the outside. You know what I mean? But unfortunately, I don't think we can. I think it's just a little too much. I think we're going to be able to run the ball on them. I think we'll be able to run the ball on them. But passing, trying to get time, hey, they got dogs all over. I just read you the list. They got dogs everywhere. So, unfortunately, y'all, week 7, excuse me, Carolina Panthers dropped to 2-4, week 6. So by this point in the season, the Panthers are 2-4 going into week 7, and the world is falling apart, right? We got podcasters saying, well, I thought it was 12 wins. But now we're trying to figure out, do we need to bench Bryce or do we play it out? In come the New York Jets. We go up to New York, and here's what they did last year. If you look on your screen, offensively, they ranked 19th in total yardage, 15th in passing yardage, 20 in rushing yardage, and 24th in points allowed. In a total polar opposite of the offense, their defense ranked 3rd overall when it comes to total yards allowed, 3rd in fewest passing yards allowed. They also had a 19th run defense, 19th scoring defense, and they had 12th in sacks when it comes to pressures. The Jets this offseason look totally different after the Aaron Rodgers saga only lasted 1 year. If you look on your screen, here's the moves they made. In free agency, they ended up picking up quarterback Justin Fields on a 2-year deal, followed by Jamie Sherwood, linebacker Tyler Johnson, Jamin Davis, another linebacker, a couple offensive linemen as well. Another key piece when it comes to releases was Devontae Adams. He was brought over along with Aaron Rodgers, and he ended up getting released, signing with the LA Rams. The Jets did take care of home first by giving Garrett Wilson a 4-year, $130 million extension, along with Sauce Gardner for a 4-year, $120 million extension. In the NFL draft, the Jets looked to bolster their offensive line with the 7th overall pick, our man, offensive tackle from Missouri, followed by the tight end Mason Taylor out of LSU in the 2nd round. All right, so here we go. Week 7, we're on the road in New York, and the Panthers got a favorable matchup here. You got to kind of throw out the numbers offensively for the New York Jets last year because that was under Aaron Rodgers' regime. Now you're talking about Justin Fields. Me personally, Justin Fields is a quarterback that can kill you 2 ways. I mean, on the ground or through the air. And unfortunately with Pittsburgh, he did have some flashes, but it wasn't enough to sustain him a contract extension there. When you look at what he did in Pittsburgh and then you try to translate what he can do with the Jets, it's almost eerily similar. I mean, you had one big-time receiver fall around a bunch of mediocre pieces on offense, right? You know what I mean? So you're coming over here, you got Garrett Wilson. To me, Garrett Wilson is equivalent to like George Pickens as far as talent level. Okay, so if you weren't able to do much over there, I mean, come on now, you know. So, and I think the AFC East may be a little bit softer than the AFC North, so we'll see. Ultimately, this really comes down to just stopping Justin Fields' highlight and improvisation qualities, right? This offensive line was middle of the road, middle of the road last year, and now they did go to the draft to pick up offensive tackle from Missouri, you know what I mean, and a couple offensive linemen at free agency. But when you look at it, I don't know if the quarterback is the right direction for the Jets, right? I think we can actually get to him and move him off his spot. It's just a matter of containing him, right? So we know we can get him to rip and run around, just containing him. I think the Jaycee Horn and Garrett Wilson matchup, I'm leaning towards Jaycee Horn. This might be one of his signature games as far as shutting somebody down. And it's not necessarily because he's just that much better than Garrett Wilson. I just don't believe in Justin Fields, you know what I mean? They do have a running back by the name of Bryce Hall who will and can run all over you. But unfortunately, this offensive line is just the middle of the road right now, like I said before. So offensively, I think, you know, we're dealing with almost a stalemate kind of situation, right? I think their poor offenses are going to allow for our defense to be amplified. This could be a situation where Derrick Brown puts pressure up front, the Trayshawn Whartons dominate up front, which allows for the secondary that's pretty mediocre to come alive, right? Jaycee Horn have a big game. our old linebackers and our young pressure guys get to Justin Fields and making it a good day for us, right? Could be a low-scoring game. The reason why I believe this game could be a low-scoring game is because their defense did show up last year, right? They're ranked 3rd in total overall yardage, but they have a lot of new faces, right? Jamie Sherwood, you also got Jamin Davis. Both of these guys are coming over via free agency. You got Andre Cisco, another free agency piece. So they definitely made some moves during this offseason. I don't know for the better. We'll have to find out. But ultimately, they got guys that can make impact plays. You got 10.5 sack man Will McDonald. You got 6 sack man Quinn Williams. And don't forget about Sauce Gardner on the outside. I think life can be extremely difficult for Bryce Young. I mean, extremely difficult. And this is one of the games where I think you got to consider Sauce Gardner taking away a receiver, right? I honestly believe, whoever he may be on, whether it's Xavier Leggett or T-Mac or whatever, I'm leaning towards Leggett, okay? I don't know if he travels or not, but if that's the case, consider one of your receivers gone. That's how good of a cornerback he is, right? So when you ask yourself, with this hellacious defense and the pressure that they apply, one of your receivers is gone, who's going to step up? I think when I get ready to drop my wide receiver video, this is the things that I kind of look at when it comes to, like how good this receiving room is. They're young, and nothing you can do. Talent doesn't beat experience, right? There's a lot of talented players out there that can make plays, but if you're not experienced enough to be in certain situations, then you're just not going to make them no matter how skilled you are. And because of that, I think this is a game that's going to be a low-scoring game. Who makes the less turnovers? And unfortunately, our young receiving core isn't ready for that kind of struggle, right? They're not ready for that kind of struggle. But hold on before you cut out the video. I will say this. There's a couple of receivers who I do know that are ready for that. And that's Adam Thielen, Hunter, and Renfro, right? I think this game where you're going to see Bryce really rely on these guys. If they take away the run with Chuba and Rico Dowdle, which is a very real possibility with that interior, I think you're going to see, the good possession receivers come to work. And Renfro's a good one, although he's older, and then you got Adam Thielen, another receiver who's older, but he's great in the possession. So those tight window throws, those throws that you need somebody to sit there. Sorry about that, y'all. I lost audio for the rest of the clip here. I'm not sure what happened to my recording device, but I was saying that this is a game where we'll be relying on our veteran receivers to step up because it's such a unique, tough defense, and I think it'll pull through. Ultimately, it will be a low-scoring game, and with Justin Fields' inability to be efficient, especially late in games, I think we'll turn them over, and that will be the difference, right? I think each team will have maybe a turnover apiece or even multiple turnovers, but the bottom line is I believe in our defense more than I believe in Justin Fields. So with that being said, I think the Carolina Panthers will pick up their 3rd win here. Panthers pick up a critical win on the road against the Jets, only to come home and have their former NFL MVP, Josh Allen, and the Buffalo Bills waiting on them. Let's see what the Buffalo Bills did this offseason to make their roster better. If you look on your screen here, you'll see they picked up wide receiver Josh Palmer from the Chargers, former Carolina Panther Laviska Shenault, Elijah Moore, wide receiver. They also re-signed Ty Johnson as well. They released Von Miller, also Mac Hollins, Quentin Jefferson, and a few more. They traded away cornerback Khalil Aliam to the Cowboys. And also Josh Allen got a huge extension, 6-year, $330 million deal. And Khalil Shakir also signed a 4-year extension. Greg Rousseau was extended as well. Let's take a look at the Bills' offense last year. They were 9th in passing yards. They were 9th in rushing yards. And they were 2nd in points per game, over 30 points per game. On the flip side of the ball, when it comes to defensive rankings, the Bills did fairly middle of the road. They were 17th in total yards allowed. They were 24th in passing yards allowed. They ranked 9th in rushing defense. They were 11th with points allowed, 21. In the NFL draft, the AFC champs followed up with Maxwell Hairston with the 30th overall pick, cornerback from Kentucky. TJ Sanders, defensive tackle from South Carolina. Landon Jackson from Arkansas headlined their draft picks. when you look at this Buffalo Bills offense, Josh Allen is the wheel that makes it turn, right? On paper, this team is really nothing special on this offense, but the fact that they got a quarterback who is a dual threat, and he's kind of like the white version of Cam Newton, but better, 2.0. It really comes down to stopping him. You know, James Cook is a 1,000-yard rusher last year. He proved late in the season he can carry it between the tackle. He also can get a lot of volume as well, something he had yet to prove up until last season. He also can catch out of the backfield. They have two 800-yard-plus receiver, Keon Coleman, Khalil Shakir. Both of those guys are going to be doing wonders in this next year. They're only going to get better, right? And don't forget the tight ends. You got Knox and you got Kincaid. But really, you know, outside of those guys, I mean, they're not really a threat. I think Josh Allen's ability to extend plays and to improvise and also, you know, to take over a game is what make those guys phenomenal. None of those receivers are elite. I'm just going to be honest with you, man. The next best weapon that you can call on the verge of elite, on the outside of elite, is probably James Cook on offense. So, with that being said, the Panthers are going to have a lot on their hand. I think this game could get ugly and could get ugly fast. I mean, if you stop James Cook, you're absolutely telling Josh Allen to beat you with his arm, which, if you don't know, he has one of the strongest arms in the league. But if you're telling me Jaycee Horn versus Keon Coleman, right, or Michael Jackson versus Khalil Shakir is nothing more than a speed guy, right? You know, he's a speedster. He could definitely burn you vertical. But overall, talent-wise, I don't fear these receivers, man. I don't. It's just Josh Allen. I just got to be honest with you. Extending plays make it really, really hard. I don't care how good of a cover corner you are. The longer you're out there, the more chance for your wide receiver to get open, right? So, with that being said, it could be a long day if they can get that blended with the run game along with him extending plays. On the flip side of this ball, you're dealing with the Buffalo Bills defense, and their front has been one of the best fronts when it comes to stopping the run, but they also get pressure up front between Greg Rousseau, between Daquan Jones, and Ed Oliver. 13.5 sacks between the three of those guys. Now, I forgot to mention they picked up Joey Bosa, who had 5 sacks. Now, a lot of people believe that Joey Bosa may be over the hill, but to a unit that's already having 13.5 sacks without him, even if he does play half the season, I still think it's going to be a heck of an impact. So, you know, you're looking at a unit, probably their strongest right there. They do have some cornerback issues there because they will allow for the pass. I think Damar Hamlin is still their safety. They got Taylor Rapp, who's, you know, he's all right. He's not the best. One guy you should be watching out is Christian Benford. 10 pass breakups, 2 forced fumbles, and I believe 2 interceptions there, man. So he could make life miserable again on our young receivers. And then on the opposite side of him, the rookie from Kentucky, Maxwell Harrison, who is the truth, by the way. So this linebacking core for Buffalo is kind of middle of the road. You got Terrell Bernard, who had 2 interceptions last year. And you also got Matt Mediano, who's just a hard-working guy. He's a hustle effort kind of guy. And it could be a homecoming for Shaq Thompson, who is on the roster. And also we had Joe Brady, who's their offensive coordinator. But ultimately, this defense is good at stopping the run, but they can be scored on. They can be passed on. I'm not necessarily as intimidated as I am of their offense, right? I think the goal on offense for the Carolina Panthers will be to throw the ball, okay? Trying to establish the run against this defense it's not impossible. It's just an uphill battle. So, with that being said, I think the middle of this linebacker room is probably the sweet spot for us, okay? You have to put some balls right behind their ears. Deep shot may be available depending on, you know, if our wide receivers can get separation, you know what I mean? And then they got to catch it, okay? So, Taylor Rapp and Damar Hamlin, I mean, I don't want to disrespect them, but I'm not sure why Hamlin is still in the league, or still on this team, okay? But he can be manipulated, so opportunities will be there in the passing game. Run game may be a little bit of uphill, but at the end of the day, you got to keep up with Josh Allen in the second-rank offense. All right, I'm ready to give you my final verdict. This is probably real quick, man. The Panthers aren't ready for what's about to come down to them. Josh Allen is just something that we're not ready for. We're not ready for it. Okay. He's going to single-handedly dominate this game. All right. Even if his number one receiver, let's say Keon Coleman gets locked up. All right. You still got Khalil Shakir. Let's say Khalil Shakir somehow, some way gets locked up by Michael Jackson. You still got two good tight ends and a good running back. I think you're going to see whether or not this defense can at least make it challenging, right? Will this defensive line show up and at least slow down James Cook? And if that's the case, you're asking Josh Allen to beat you, in which he's wholeheartedly can and probably will do. My verdict is this, man. It's probably going to be a blowout. Unfortunately, man, just too much. It's too much. Too much play action there. Too much Josh Allen taking off on you. I mean, it's death by 1,000 cuts. That's what kind of quarterback he is. He's going to give it to you each and every way. I mean, unfortunately, the Panthers lose Week 8 at home against the Buffalo Bills. Move on to our next segment, 95ers Sound Off. In this segment, 95ers Sound Off, we read comments and questions from the fans. If you want a chance for your comment to be read live on a video, make sure it's thought engaging, funny, or anything of that nature here. Let's go to the screen. This is from It's Free to Pay Attention. I love that name. He says, I need you to curse something out a little bit. You're way too calm, and we got to get you souped up for the season. Hey, listen, man, I appreciate that. Listen, man, I had to comment down for YouTube because people were saying, I'm just crazy, and oh, he's this and that, right? So that's part of the reason why I'm kind of calm. But all jokes aside, the real reason why I'm kind of calm is because my expectations are super low. You got to understand, it's been like 7 seasons since we made the playoffs. So, you know, I'm kind of more in the sit back and let it happen. If it's going to happen, I'm going to sit back and let it happen. But the rah-rah, hype-up kind of tone, I kind of toned that down. You know, I'm tired of getting my heart broken. So I had to calm it down, all right? But yeah, man, I appreciate your concern. Thank you for your support, man, in the chat as always. But we're going to be all right. I think this team is headed in the right direction. And eventually this team will be a legit contender at some point in time, all right? That's all I got for you guys for 95ers Sound Off. Let's move on to the last segment, the last growl. All right, party people, do we have a good time today? I hope we did. Man, listen, I know it was a rough show, man, but we're sitting here right now at 3-5 going into week 9. And look, I mean, this team is rebuilding. It's going to be a lot of highlight plays, a lot of highlight moments and stuff like that. But ultimately, this part of the schedule is going to prove either how much we've grown or how much we need to grow. You know what I mean? So just got to kind of use this as a learning tool. I know everybody wants Bryce to do really, really well. And if he does, then guess what? Oh, well, man, that's something, it's something we can grow on. You know what I mean? That's one to grow on. So it's not a negative thing. But based off of what I've seen in the past and based off of, that's all we got to go off of, right? I can't sit here and say, well, hypothetically, he's going to be the best. I got to take the good in Bryce, the bad in Bryce. I got to take the good in the defense, the bad in the defense. I got to take the good in the offense and the bad in the offense. Based off of what all that has happened in the past, and I make a critical, opinionated projection of what the future may hold. Doesn't necessarily mean that's so, doesn't mean it's right, but don't get mad if you, feel this way. But if we're sitting at this point in the season, let me know how you guys feel, what will need to happen. If we're going into week 9, 3-5, do you think Bryce should be benched? What should happen, okay? As always, man, it's been a pleasure being your host today. I'm the Big Cat, and this is 1995, The Roar, okay? Restoring the Roar. Listen, if you're new to the channel, make sure you like, share, subscribe. We got more to come as far as TikTok. Follow me on Instagram, X, everywhere I may be. Just go to my homepage and find me there, okay? Pause up. 95ers, let me hear your roar. Keep pounding.